Welcome to Tiny Grimes Set 4 Solforge review. I like to review all of the cards for each set that comes out. Sometimes it takes me a little longer to get around to them than others. For this particular set, I've been trying out some of the cards before I reviewed them. So let's start with Alloyin and go through each of these one by one. So Uriel Ironwing is one of the new legendaries. I like this card a lot. When I first played it, actually I should say when I first looked at it, I thought it's a 4/7. Alloyin has a lot of these 4-attack guys already. Is he really going to make an entrance into this deck, into this archetype? And for me personally, he really has. I find this card to be very strong. The level 1 is strong. The level 2 becomes much stronger, being able to give people -4 attack. He moves around to do it. Being able to essentially usually hit 2 people. So you jump in front of somebody, give it -4 attack. It almost certainly lives to the next turn where it gives someone else -4 attack. So it's basically given -8 and it's an 8/11. It's a very, very strong card. Level 3 is also very interesting where it can just kill people if you can get it down far enough. What's really exciting about this card for me is that it synergizes really well with a lot of cards released in the set. Soul Reap is probably my favorite card in the set, and this card interacts with it very well. You get to play a powerful card that helps set up Soul Reap. It's not like in the past where in order to set up Zrace Will, you had to play stuff like Virix Embrace, cards like that you might not have wanted to play as much. This is a card you really don't mind playing at all, and it becomes really strong. Okay, let's move on to the next card. Gauntlets of Solgrim. This is another really strong new Alloyin legendary. Alloyin got both of their legendaries are very strong. This is an interesting card that both gives armor to a creature and acts as a bulwark bash. So you can do really cool stuff like drop a sentinel to give somebody, himself or even a robot that already has some armor, more armor. Play this and bash off something that's really has a lot of health. Another way to use this is to do something like give gargoyle armor. Now your gargoyle has permanent armor. Maybe you're able to use that 2 armor to finish off a small mob, and then you go in and now you have an armored gargoyle that's even harder to kill, as if it wasn't hard enough to kill before. Essentially, it takes armor decks that were already floating around out there and gives them another tool. I mean, Bulwark Bash is so powerful that I've actually used it in Constructed, but it's just not quite good enough. This card is Bulwark Bash, only better. And you can combo it with stuff like Aegis Knight. I mean, the deck I've been running is like Aegis Knight, Gargoyle, Sentinel, Aeronaut. All these cards that have armor get boosted by this. It's a really strong card. I like it a lot. And it's only going to get better as we get more and more robots with armor. Alright. Moving on to the heroics. These have been a lot less exciting to me. War Tinker is okay, I suppose. When she enters the field, you get another level 1 robot. The problem is War Tinker's awful. So unless you're going to use her to upgrade or to blow up with some other card, I just don't really see the value in getting a free 2/2 when you could just not play this card and play a good card. I mean, Solforge has certainly reached that saturation level where there's so many good cards to choose from, and then by playing her, you're not playing a really good underdrop. Instead, you're playing her to get a robot, an on-level robot. So if she's underleveled, you're getting an underleveled robot. That's not that great. I think you really have to combo her, and I'm sure there's going to be some tier 1.5, tier 2 decks where she'll fit in really well. But I haven't found a good use for her yet in tier 1. But then again, I haven't worked too much with the upgrade mechanic as of yet. It feels a little bit inefficient still. And Orient Scavenger to me, is in that same vein. So it's a better version of the Orient Battle Droid. The Orient Battle Droid is garbage. So you took a garbage card and you made it ever so slightly better, but you have to upgrade to do it. To me, it's still garbage. There's too many cards out there like Direhounds, like Epidemics, any number of cards that are going to lower the health value, lowering it more when it's at 1, lowering it all, it's dead. So to me, the Scavenger is a really bad card because you're doubling down on the battle droid, right? The battle droid was bad, but at least it was one card. Here you have to take a card to feed this card to do bad things. Now, if you're pairing it with gauntlets, maybe there's some way to get more value out of this card, but I don't think it's a tier 1 constructed playable card, and I don't think it ever will be. I think cards that have 1 health are just too dangerous. This is a card that most people were really excited about, and I have been, wary about him. So he's the card that's basically in the game to combat metas that devolve into I'm going to play a lot of cards out of my hand, whether that be some sort of infinite deck, or even just a gnome deck that's getting a bunch of plays, or even getting a free Rage of Cadras off your Flame Sculptor. This guy is supposed to shut all that down. The problem is, much like Justicar and the Herald, his stats aren't that great, so you don't want to play him unless you're playing him for that specific purpose, and he's rather killable, at least at level 1. So in order to get him to a point where he maybe sticks around the board to actually get value, you have to level him as an underleveled card. If they want to play 3 cards, especially if they're a spell-heavy deck, the first spell will kill him, and then after that, they'll do other things. So he's a very meta-specific card, and even in that meta, I just think Stoneblade keeps releasing these cards that are supposed to address meta problems, but they address them sort of weakly. And maybe that's intentional because they don't want to completely neuter that deck. They just want to put that little bit of a leash on those decks, but these cards just end up being not that playable. He may be playable. The meta right now has moved a little bit away from playing a whole bunch of cards in a turn, and if that's the case, he's not worth playing at all. I actually haven't seen anyone play it, and I haven't been playing it. Okay, let's go into, we're going to go back for a second and make sure all the cards are showing up here. Oh, we now have to reset all this. Okay. All right. We now have the Vault Welder. I have not used this guy at all, I'll admit. He has an upgrade mechanic. Each creature you control with Defender loses and can't get Defender. So I think he could be really cool in a Defender deck. There's a lot of... We're quickly reaching a saturation point of Defender cards that are actually good, to where he might be really good. I don't think he's quite there yet. I think he's like a tier 1.5 Funzy deck. A couple more huge Defenders, and he's a real card. So we're going to have to see if we can get to that point. And for all I know, he's a real card right now. I haven't actually used him myself. He's definitely one of those cards that's on the radar. You can only build so many decks in a short period of time, but he's definitely on the edge of being good. And as soon as we get to that point, he could be the tipping point, because with him and the Instigator, you're having enough cards that strip away Defender along with Jetpack that maybe you can do some big things. So we're gonna have to see the jury's still out on him. Spirit's still Infiltrator. When he has 5 or more attack, it gets mobility and armor. I don't know. I mean, those are decent stats. A 4-7, a 7-12, a 14-21. But they're not amazing. And he has to get pump to be able to get there. So if you invest another card in him, you're essentially investing into him to get him to have 7 health, to have 12 health. He'll probably survive 1 hit. The nice thing is, Alloyin does have easy ways to pump him that aren't other cards. So you could go like Aeronaut in the middle, would get him there on actually all 3 of his levels. Certainly Battletech would, Strategist will. So if you're building a deck like that, there's potential for him to be decent. The problem is there's a lot of other cards in Alloyin that are sort of fitting into that kind of slot, to where with other cards they're really good. He doesn't function that well on an empty board as an underdrop, and I would say I would play Uriel over him. I would play Strategist probably over him. I'd probably play Delpha over him, the new and improved Delpha. I would probably play Aeronaut over him. I'd play Gargoyle over him. Like, we're quickly reaching this point of he's not bad, but there's all these cards that play over him, so where exactly is he fitting in? If he was a robot or had some other innate synergy that he could combo with, maybe. I think he's a reasonable card. In draft, he may be very good. But in constructed play, I don't think he's going to see really any play. But he's interesting. All right, Palladium Echoes. Each creature an opponent controls gets -X, which is 2 times your rank. This could be interesting. It's basically an epidemic, right? But it's an epidemic out of Alloyin. So, I don't know. I haven't tried it yet, but I could conceive of a deck where I might use it. Let me rephrase that. It's not an epidemic because it's just attack. So, I don't know. My initial thought is this is not a good card in Constructed. I can't envision a deck where I would play this, even if I'm looking to play a deck where I'm reducing their attack. I feel like there's other cards that do it better. They're a little bit more efficient than this card. So, I mean, especially if I'm looking to pair it with Necreum to get stuff like Soul Reap to work. Necreum has a whole bunch of cards. Like, would I rather play this or Epidemic? I mean, it's nice because under-leveled, it functions better than, say, Epidemic. And that's certainly a boon for it. But if I'm playing this on level 3, is that really enough, a whole play, just to reduce them by 6 attack? I don't know. It depends on the deck. It have to be a very specific deck. It's certainly a card I'll take a closer look at some point, but so far I don't think it fits into decks that I'm building. All right, Aegis Wings. Let's see if we can get it to come up here. This is a really interesting card. We got a lot of text here. Give a creature a bonus attack, and if it's the highest attack, it gets mobility and armor. Now, theoretically, this will turn on every time. You're probably not playing it in a deck where you don't expect guys to have the highest attack. So essentially, you're playing a card that boosts attack, boosts mobility, and boosts armor. I mean, this is kind of interesting. You really have to figure out, is there a guy that this is going to be really great on? Because generally, just playing a card to give a guy plus attack is not that great, right? You're basically setting yourself up to be 2 for 1 at that point. But you're getting armor, so you can maybe you'll be able to soak a whole attack. Right now I'm sort of vamping here while I'm thinking about who I would put this on, and I'm not entirely sure. I mean, some creatures that come to mind are something like Thundersoar. You can immediately buff him and give him mobility. Maybe you could put it on a Wyvern. He gets more attack, but I'm just thinking there's better cards than this to use this for. So I don't know. If we can find the right creatures to put this on, I could see this maybe being good. But I really don't think it's going to be that good of a card in the long run. And maybe in a specific deck with a specific creature, a specific combo, yes. Just generally, I don't really see it. I would rather just play a good card. Now, the attack is pretty reasonable as an underdrop, maybe. But again, I don't know. I don't really like to put 2 cards into 1 card and have it die. That's why you're not going to see me play cards like Rite of the Grim Gaunt and stuff like that. It's too risky to put multiple cards into 1 card. Okay, let's move on to Tech Explorer. When he enters the field, you get to discard a creature and level it. Now, he's interesting. I think he's worse than Technosmith, because Technosmith is more flexible. Stats better for level 2 for Technosmith. Level 3 is better for Tech Explorer, but you're probably leveling cards you want to play. I mean, the Tech Explorer has good numbers, but Technosmith is not bad either. I think he's 15-15. That's reasonable. So I don't really think he gets played over Technosmith, but Technosmith isn't played. So that's not even really a debate, right? So it's really just, is he playable? I don't think he is. There is a possibility that you could build now an Alloyin deck that basically levels everything. So you could go like Alloyin Splash Battlebrand, play Killian, this guy, Meta Transfer, Technosmith, Battlebrand, and just level everything. But then what are you leveling? Like, you have all these bad cards in your deck to level stuff. It just doesn't feel like it works. In draft, I imagine it's very good. You can play a late game deck a little bit easier, but I don't think we're going to see this guy in constructed anytime soon. All right, Steel Watch Guard. We do have a robot here, another upgrade mechanic. It gets +3/+3. So this is where you see something like the War Tinker having some value. You know, you play the War Tinker, the next guy comes in for free. Instead of a 3/3, it's a 6/6. But you know what? Why didn't you just play a guy that was a 6/6 in the first place? Now, as we move on to levels 2 and 3, you do start seeing the value of him to some degree. Like, you could play an under-leveled Tinker, drop down the level 2 guard, upgrade it. You can upgrade something else. I mean, getting a 14, 14, 22, 22, that's pretty strong. I could see this being really strong in draft, where all you have to do is win a trade, drop him over the top of it, and he becomes a monster. In constructed, it feels like there's probably better answers, but he is big if you have stuff to upgrade. So maybe you run him in a UA deck where you have some extra drops that you're putting down that you can take advantage of. With that Kitaru card, it could certainly be good where you upgrade over the top of that and then get the Kitaru back. And especially if you're running leveling mechanics as well, such as Killian. If you can skip the level 1 on this card, I think its value is much higher. The level 1 is pretty much garbage, having to get rid of a card to play a so-so card. 2 and 3, maybe. We'll have to see. I'm not sold on him. I haven't tried him, though, so I'm not going to say he's bad yet. He's intriguing, and I think he's good for draft. All right, the Steel Eye Researcher. Upgrade, you may discard a card and level it. Okay. I'd rather play Killian. I don't have to upgrade. The question is, how many other cards are there that are worth playing that you can upgrade? Now, an interesting thing you could do with this guy is go like Scorchmane Dragon, play the egg, overwrite it to get another card leveled. But again, this upgrade mechanic is really inefficient. You're having to give up multiple cards to have one card function or grow. And there's so many other cards already that let you level cards that I'm just not sure having one more that's inefficient makes that work. I may be wrong. His numbers are pretty good. Like, he's actually a little bit better than Killian numbers wise, but I don't know. I'll have to think about him. I may end up trying him in a deck just because his numbers are pretty good. Between him and Killian, you're able to pick up a lot of cards. But like I said, you have to have something you're upgrading. So what exactly is it? Are you forced into a UA? Are you trying to play as many eggs to the board as you can to overwrite them? What exactly is your plan here? How are you making this work? Because you're giving up a creature. Even if you say, like, well, I can win a trade and then give it up. Well, if you do that, then you didn't win the trade. You just traded. So I don't know. I'm not completely sold on these upgrade cards. I haven't seen a deck where anyone used them well and efficiently yet. It's something I'll be looking into, and I could see him being reasonably good. It also takes you out of the almost necessary connection to Tempe's if you want to level stuff, because right now you have Killian and Battlebrand. This allows you to go Killian, him, and maybe say into Utera, and then be able to overwrite drops from Utera, and maybe there's some cards in there that you're thinking, well, I can use that to level up stuff and get some good value there. So it does open up some flexibility for use with other factions. I like that. All right, metamind infiltrator. This guy is a metamind, so you got that going for you. There are a lot of metaminds, though. His numbers are reasonable, but a vanilla metamind, you have Drix, you have Gox, you have the guy that draws cards at the end of the rank, you have the guy that draws cards when he dies. I don't know. How many metaminds do you really want to run in a deck? How far all in do you need to go? When really Drix is the only card that's giving you a ton of value for having metaminds. I think he probably does not make the cut. Though just as a body, like in draft, he's pretty good. But in constructed, I don't think so. You're going to take a pass on him. All right, Battletech Inventor. This is a cool looking card. I don't think I've really taken a serious look at it. Like it's level 3. That's pretty neat. All right, so when it enters the field, target creature an opponent controls gets -3 attack. So this is kind of interesting because it's somewhat similar to the Underdrop series of cards, only it's getting it right away, but its numbers are weak. So I don't know, it depends, I guess, on how you're building your deck. You need some sort of Underdrop. She functions okay as an Underdrop, but not that great. I think I would rather take one of the other Underdrop cards, or just say like I don't know, any number of cards that's like a 6/7 or a 7/6, like a Phoenix or something. Within Alloyin, it's harder because Alloyin doesn't have as many good Underdrops, and maybe she does see play. The -3 attack works really well with some of the new synergy with Uriel and Soul Reap and all of that, but I feel like there's other cards that do it better. So to me, I don't really see myself playing her unless there's some sort of gnome synergy that comes out in the future. But any card could be good in the future. You never know. As for now, I'd say I don't think so. Probably gonna take a pass on her. All right, last card from Alloyin. We have Animatize. This card I like a fair amount. Target creature gets -4 attack. The next one you play is free. This whole series is very interesting. So let's say you're going to play this with Soul Reap. This is a great way to trigger it if you then go with like the full draw package. If you go Gox, Gnomes, Energy Surges, and your plan is to draw a ton of cards and quite frequently be able to loop these 2 at a time and be able to go, say a level 1 and a level 2 together to -12 somebody, and then bam, Soul Reap them. That's pretty amazing. And it's a pretty sizable effect that gets really big and levels very well. Really neutralizes characters. But I don't know. Outside of that, it becomes much dicier to play. Is a spell that just says one guy gets -4 attack all that viable? I don't think so. So I think you really need to be trying to take advantage of this. Another option is with the Hermit. If you can make some deck work with Hermit where you are pulling these back, and I feel like this is the case with all of these, this whole series. The problem is this particular card doesn't work that well with Hermit. Does Zutero really care if you're lowering their attack value? Not that much. They'd rather do other things. It's really Necrium that gets all excited about that with cards like Zrace Will and Soul Reap. So I feel like Animatize does fairly well maybe in some sort of NA build with a full draw engine, but outside of that, probably not. So I don't think we'll see it all that often. All right, well, that's going to wrap up my take on the Alloyin cards. Stay tuned for my review of the other cards in a future episode. See you next time.